Hello, my name is Tegan Rutkowski, and this is my demo lesson for my Superba Vox application. And for today, I've decided to go ahead and do a presentation on vocal anatomy. So I'm going to get started with that now. Hello, I hope everyone is doing well today. My name is Tegan Rutkowski, and I am your instructor for today. A little bit about myself. I am a Master's of Music student at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. I study vocal performance, specifically classical vocal performance. And part of what I do in my studies is not only learn how to sing correctly or sing well, but also study the internal workings of how the voice produces sound in the way that it does, especially with relationship to singing. And so part of that is vocal anatomy. And so that is going to be our subject for today. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. All right. So vocal anatomy. What is vocal anatomy? You might be wondering to yourself. Okay. So what is vocal anatomy? Vocal anatomy is the physical framework that allows us to sing or to speak or to make a variety of different sounds. So maybe you'll say to yourself, "Oh, I really don't want to do my homework today." That is a way that we can use our vocal anatomy to produce sound. And that's a little bit different than the way that it sounds when we speak or when we sing, because it's a little bit more guttural. And in singing, we refer to that as a glottal attack, but that's a little bit beyond what we're going to be talking about today. But so essentially, when we think of vocal anatomy as vocalists or as public speakers, or really anything that requires the voice as a medium to communicate, uh, it's like when a musician learns about the different parts of their instrument. So if a saxophonist or a pianist didn't know about the parts of their instrument, they wouldn't be able to play it correctly. And so singing is a little bit different in that a lot of people, most people, grow up and they slowly learn how to use their vocal folds, I should say, not vocal cords. We'll get to that in a minute. And it just comes naturally to them. Maybe playing the piano doesn't come naturally to most people, myself included. And so, but for us, it is important to understand how those different parts come together and how they're producing sound. So this is going to be an abbreviated lesson today, but we're just going to quickly go over the four different systems and what they physically look like in our bodies. And so let's talk about the four vocal systems. Now, the four vocal systems can be categorized as the energizing system, the vibratory system, the resonatory system, and the articulatory system. And so the energizing system is kind of where everything starts. It's the base of it. So it's our lungs, it's our trachea, it's our diaphragm right below our rib cage. That, if you've ever been in singing class or acting class and they say to expand your diaphragm, you kind of feel like this balloon expanding in your stomach a little bit, right? And your stomach's a little bit bigger than it normally would be. That's the diaphragm, and that's part of the energizing system. And so the breath is set in motion, and this is what's powering our sound when we speak or when we sing. And classical singers have really strong control over their diaphragm. It's part of what allows them to reach the farthest corners of a room. And so next is the vibratory system. So our vocal folds, as I mentioned before, commonly known as the vocal cords, are located in our larynx, so right around here. And we're going to be looking at a picture of those in a minute. And there's also some videos that you can look at that examine what they look like when you're speaking or when you're singing. It's kind of gross, but kind of cool. Um, and so that's the next level in the system that's creating our sound. After that, we get to the resonatory system, which is our oral and nasal cavities. So this kind of whole part of our face, our larynx, where the vocal folds are located, our pharynx, and also our skeletal structure. So that means our like entire skull and our spine and all of these bones in here. It's like a giant, like a giant sound system. In a way, it's helping our sound be projected in a certain way. And then it starts to shape our sound into more distinct ones compared to what it would be if we just audiated with our energizing and our vibratory systems. And then lastly, is the articulatory vocal system. And so this is what really gets into the nitty gritty of shaping our sound. And so, what's allowing me to speak right now is our lips, our teeth, our tongue, and our jaw. And that is what gives our words shape. And it is especially important in singing because you could sing a variety of different notes, ah, or whatever you're going to be singing. And that's just going to be utilizing your energizing, your vibratory, and your resonatory sound. But once you engage your articulatory system, that's what allows you to sing specific phrases and really let the audience or whoever's listening to you know what you're saying or what you're speaking. All right, we're going to take a look at what these systems look like. Okay, so we're going to look at this person right here. And so as you can see, we have we have our skull right here, well underneath the skin, and as well as the nasal cavity and our oral cavity. And so that's a part of our resonatory system, uh, as is the larynx. And then we get right down in here, we have our lungs and our diaphragm that are a part of the energizing system. Um, and then these right here are what vocal cords look like. And so they're kind of weird looking, as I mentioned before, and it's especially strange to see them in action. But so this is essentially what's coming together, and those muscles are coming together to as air moves through them, then they're producing sound. And I used the word glottal before in reference to a glottal attack. And you can see right here that there is the glottis, which is actually a part of the vocal cords. Okay. And so here's a closer look in terms of the anatomy of the larynx and how everything is set up. And you can actually see where the vocal folds are set into the larynx. Okay, and here's some important vocabulary that you should be aware of. And so the diaphragm, the trachea, the epiglottis, are vocal folds, the larynx, the pharynx, the nasopharynx, the oropharynx, the palate, and then that continues on to the hard palate and the soft palate. So the hard palate is like if you were to take the tip of your tongue and run it, you go from the back of your teeth and start to run it back, then you can feel the hard palate and it feels like a piece of bone under there. But the further that you run it back, it starts to get kind of soft and squishy. And that's our soft palate. And so sometimes vocal instructors will tell you to raise your soft palate, which it's like you don't even think that you have control of that part of your body, but you do. And it's really cool. But so all of these words you can find on the diagrams. Excuse me, you can find on the diagrams in this presentation. But that's all that I have today. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me. And I look forward to hearing back from you. Thank you so much.